Hi, first graders. This is the story called Where the Wild Things Are. It's written and illustrated by Maurice Sendak. That means he's not only the author, which means he wrote the words, but he's also the illustrator, which is super cool. You might have already read this story before, and you might have even seen the movie. There was a movie created from this book a couple years ago. In my opinion, I love the book a little bit more than the movie. And that's okay if you disagree. I think that the movie is a little bit dark and kind of gloomy, whereas the book to me is a little bit more magical and fun. So I'm going to read you the story. And then after I read it to you, you're going to find the second part of this assignment where you're going to create your own wild thing. Okay? Pay attention to the characteristics of the wild things, which means what they look like. Their body is a combination of other animals that we're used to seeing in our everyday world. All right, where the wild things are. Just want to make sure that you can see the pictures. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one of kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. Mischief means that he was being naughty. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. Can you imagine how magical it would be if a forest started growing in your room? And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around him. How cool that is. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through the night and day. And in and out of weeks and almost over 1 year to where the wild things are. So notice this first wild thing. He's an ocean creature. He has wings like a bird. He has horns. He has, scales on his arms and claws. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. So look at the first one, kind of looks like a lion. He has a lion body, a lion tail. He has long hair though, and he has a horn similar to a rhinoceros. The one on his back kind of reminds me of a mountain goat. And then the other two have different characteristics. The one has like a raccoon tail, and then the legs have scales like a reptile. And then the guy in the very back, he even has what looks like chicken feet. So they have different characteristics of animals that we see in our everyday world. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with his magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened, and they called him the most wild thing of all. And made him king of all the wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start." They're bowing down to him. They think that he is the most wild. So now he's like the king of the wild things. And notice that they're all nice. They're happy. They're smiling. They're not scary. They're very unique creatures, though. That's why it's going to be fun for us to create our own wild things. Now they're having a wild rumpus. for the night. Looks like they're singing and they're dancing. I like the guy with the human feet. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely, and he wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then, all around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. Try to make a prediction. Where do you think he's going to go? Think about what happened at the beginning of the story. Remember, predictions are where we guess what's going to happen next using what we already know. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And he sailed over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. I think I know what happened. Even though the author didn't tell us this, I think when Max was being naughty at the beginning of the story and he was sent to his room without his supper, I think he was upset and maybe he lay down on his bed and he fell asleep and this all was a dream. I don't know. That's my thought. Okay, now that we've listened to the story, your next job is to find the second part of this assignment where you're going to create your own wild thing.